So, 24 hours later, picked up the Galaxy S23 Ultra. And you already know, you've been following the channel, your boy has Launcher 10 on the Galaxy S23 Ultra. And another reason why I love this phone so freaking much over what I'm recording on right now as my webcam as an iPhone 11. I have used every iPhone possible. I've owned an iPhone 14 Pro Max, iPhone 13 Pro Max, iPhone 12 Pro Max, iPhone 11. And I'll be honest with you. This is the best phone I have ever used. Second best phone I've ever used. Behind a Galaxy Note 20 Ultra. Which I still think is the best phone of all time. Has removable storage up to 1 terabyte. Plus you get the base model configuration. Absolutely god tier phone. But this phone is pretty dang close to that. Now, if you guys have been following the channel, you know I absolutely love foldable phones in general. Foldable phones are my go-to. Whether you're using a Galaxy Z Fold 4, Surface Duo 1 or 2, or pretty much any foldable phone at this point, I absolutely adore and love them the most. So, when I was picking my new phone, I was like, I want to get a candy bar type cell phone, right? Because I have had so many foldable cell phones, and number one, Galaxy Z Fold 5 has definitely interested me, right? Piqued up my interest. Not too interested in the Google Pixel Fold, even with the Tensor 2, Tensor 3 chip, whatever it releases with, whenever it releases. Not too much of a fan of it. So I looked at this phone, and I thought, on paper, this phone looks absolutely amazing, right? You have a 200 megapixel camera, which is absolutely amazing. Let's go down the list here. And I think it doesn't have tech specs here. It has tech specs here. Okay, so, you know, you have recycling glass, recycling PET film, the whole phone is just a great carbon footprint, right? Obviously, the pen. Yes, pen. Always a nice thing to have. Another thing that I do love about this phone is Samsung DeX, which I personally do not use Samsung DeX that much, but it is a nice feature to have if you're ever on vacation and you don't have access to your laptop or setup like myself. I have a $4,000 PC build, right? So I'm not going to be carrying that around when I go on vacation. Nonetheless, though, and then it goes down to the camera specs. 12 megapixels front camera, which I think is definitely an L. Reason why is because the Galaxy S22 Ultra, the front camera was a 40 megapixel camera. This is 12. Why go down? I don't really understand that. A 12 megapixel ultra wide, 200 megapixel wide angle camera, 10 megapixel 10 times optical zoom telephoto camera, which, yes, I did the typical noob move. When I first picked this up, I looked at the moon and took a picture. I'm sorry. Everyone does it, okay? The reason why you first hear about this phone is that if you take a picture with an iPhone here versus a Galaxy S23 Ultra, you're going to get absolutely gorgeous look from the Galaxy S23 Ultra. And then it's a 10 times optical zoom telephoto camera too. So it has some very beautiful cameras. And I'm going to tell you right now, the iPhone 14 Pro Max is the best camera you're going to find on a smartphone. It's better than the Samsung S23 Ultra. Now, that's in normal, everyday light. So if I go out 2 p.m., I take pictures, right? It's going to look absolutely gorgeous. It's not, in my opinion, ever going to compare to this bad boy, which is a Sony, what is it, a ZV-10? A ZV-E10, right? Which obviously is Sony's, I want to say, kind of mid-range type thing. I'm not used to the whole mid-range. I usually rock my A7 III as my main camera, but this is what would be very comparable, right, to this phone, to this price tag right here. $1,100, around $1,100 after you get all the extra lenses and stuff like that. I believe it starts at a baseline of like 850. Nonetheless, though, low light is where you're going to see absolute gorgeousness. When I first saw night mode on the iPhone, I thought it was amazing. Then I saw night mode on a Galaxy S23 Ultra. It changes your world. It is absolutely breathtaking. It really is. It's a lot of the reasons why, a lot of photographers, instead of going with DSLR cameras now at this point are becoming obsolete, they go with mirrorless cameras because of the low light capabilities. When you can put the ISO up to around 20,000, no, it's going to be a little grainy then you can actually get better pictures with a mirrorless than you can a DSLR. This phone is a little bit of everything inside of it. I mean, I can take a picture in low light and it looks absolutely gorgeous. I mean, to a point that the iPhone can't even compete with a low light image of this caliber. The only problem is shutter speed. So, for example, I don't think this camera has it, but the A7 III has it, where you take a picture, I can hold down the shutter, and I can take 1,000 pictures in a millisecond. You can kind of do very similar to with an iPhone 14 Pro Max. You can't do it with this thing. This thing takes time to take pictures. That's not a huge problem unless you are a photographer. I am a photographer outside of YouTube. I do photography. I've done weddings. I've done different, gigs, photo shoots. You want to have a fast shutter speed because every second that phone takes to take the picture and process it, you're missing a beautiful moment in your life, right? You're missing a beautiful moment that could be captured. And that's a problem. And again, I think we are now at a point where these cell phones, whether the Galaxy S23 Ultra, iPhone 14 Pro Max, we're now at a point where we see these cell phones as almost the same equivalent of buying this, right? Which like I said, I never in my million years will ever use this and say this is better than this. I just can't. I have seen so many different, images, so many different videos, so many different things, period, that it's hard for me to really, ever point at a phone, no matter what the phone is, and say it's better than a DSLR camera or a mirrorless camera. But, still very beautiful images. I mean, this does a really good job of capturing that whole entire thing. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, and that's the 200 megapixel camera. Do you need 200 megapixels? Is this important? No, it's really not. So, I feel like phones do this all the time, right? Samsung makes fun of Apple because finally Apple got, 120 megapixel camera on their phone, and Samsung's been there for years, and now they have a 200 megapixel camera on their phone. What's the whole point? Why is megapixels important? Well, here's why it's important. Megapixels is how many pixels, millions of pixels, can be in one image at a time. So if I take a picture right now, right, of my computer monitor right here, and I take a 200 megapixel camera, that means 200 million megapixels are in that image of that monitor. If I take that same picture with this, which I believe, I want to say is like a 20 megapixel camera, same picture, bam. That means I have 20 million megapixels of images, of pixels, in that picture. 200 to 20. Well, okay, 200 is obviously better. Why are we even comparing that? No. Here's how it breaks down. When you are, theoretically speaking, worrying about 200 megapixels versus 20, megapixels in a camera really all depends on if you're going to print the image out or not. So, for example, if I take a picture of you right now, right, and I use a 200 megapixel camera, if I'm going to print your image out, and let's say, for example, frame it on the wall, give photos out to your friends and family, right, that is when megapixels matter. Because when you print out an image, right, let's say you take a life-size image of somebody, You want 200 million megapixels in an image when you print out is amazing, right? Because that's going to capture every little detail of you, right? It's going to capture every little ounce of you. Well, if you do this is only going to capture 20 million megapixels of you. Is it going to look awful when a 20 megapixel camera? No. Is it going to look amazing next level with this? Yes. But the thing is, if you're not printing it out, you don't need it. You don't. And you might say, well, I need it for my Instagram because I need to post really beautiful pictures. Listen, the only time... So there's a thing called RAW files and non-RAW files. RAW files are the 200 megapixel camera files. Those usually are a little bit larger, and not every single program will take them. Lightroom will, but not many will. Whenever you are, let's say, for example, you're posting on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatever, every single social media site compresses your files. So they're going to compress your 200 megapixel camera file all the way down to around a 30 or 40 megapixel camera file, even down to 20. I think Instagram does down to 20. So even though you shot it at 200, you're only posting a 20. You're posting the equivalent of this. So if you post on Instagram, these two are the same. If you post on Twitter, it's actually technically worse than this. It's actually like a 15 megapixel camera. Nonetheless, though, unless you're printing out the image, you don't need 200 megapixels. If you aren't printing out the image, then you're posting on social media, everything's going to get compressed. If you're sending it to a friend and family, everything's going to get compressed. If you're doing anything other than printing it out, you are going to have your image compressed. You're not going to see 200 million megapixels. No, other than a raw file, no actual service / social media / texting, Twitter, whatever, is going to be able to fully capture and have all 200 million megapixels in that image. You just won't. So, that's something to take in consideration. Gaming. Listen. One reason why you love this phone over any iPhone. Now, I'm talking about any iPhone. iPhone 14 Pro Max too. RAM. 12 gigabytes of RAM in this bad boy. 12 gigabytes, and I think it actually has virtual RAM up to 16. This is why you use a Galaxy Z Fold 4, a Galaxy S23 Ultra, a lot of different Samsung phones. 12 gigabytes of RAM. An iPhone, this 11 right here has, I believe, 4 gigabytes of RAM. The newest iPhones have 6. It is so much different to use 12 gigabytes of RAM. And here's the big kicker. Because you might say, well, I don't game on my phone, so why would I care? I have a Nintendo Switch. I have an Xbox One. I have a PS5. I don't care about gaming on my phone. Going into applications and going out of them is so much faster. I can upload a TikTok right now on my phone, on my iPhone 14 Pro Max. I can upload TikTok. I have to stay in the app and wait for it to finish. If I upload it on the Galaxy S23 Ultra, I can load the TikTok on the app, right? Have it go in the app, and then go to another app. Go do something else. Go do 17 other things. It's still going to go through. It's not going to mess up. It's not going to glitch. It's not going to have anything problem with it. Because you have 12 gigabytes of RAM. Guys, this is a very underestimated point. A lot of people don't think about when it comes to these cell phones is how much RAM a cell phone has. 12 gigabytes versus 6 of an iPhone 14 Pro Max. It is a night and day difference. And obviously the biggest thing for the iPhone 14 Pro Max is that it does have 120 hertz display. This has a 120 hertz display. Technically, the iPhone 14 Pro Max does have 2000 nits of brightness. I believe this has 1800. but the iPhone 14 Pro Max cannot get to 2000 unless it has adaptive brightness and you're out in the sunlight. Nonetheless, though, 12 gigabytes of RAM is what really is the game changer here. I know the A16 Bionic chip is amazing. And honestly, the Snapdragon Gen 2 chip is amazing in this phone. But 12 gigabytes of RAM is that next level game changer that you really learn how truly amazing it actually is. And everything else, again, is just a plus one, is a plus about this phone. And again, it does come down to user preference when it comes to, do you want to use Android? I believe this is Android 13, I believe. I know Android 14 is coming out later this year. Let me just double check. But the question is, do you want to use Android or do you want to use iOS? That really is what it comes down to at the end of the day. Because, again, both these phones are absolutely amazing. The iPhone 14 Pro Max and this phone. This is actually running currently, why can I not figure 13. iPhone 13. iPhone 13. Android 13. Nonetheless, though, again, both these phones are absolutely amazing. It really does come down to what operating system you want. I have a MacBook Pro M2 Max over here running my whole entire setup. I have a $4,000 dollar gaming PC. I have an iPhone here. I have a Galaxy S23 Ultra here. So, again, it really comes down to what personally you want to do, what works out for you. Operating system wise, keeping everything in the same ecosystem works out for a lot of people. I have a mix of both. I have the Apple ecosystem. I'm also rocking the Microsoft / Android operating systems, but that does come down to that. But I'm going to tell you right now, it blows the iPhone out of the water in every other category. Outside of operating systems, it is truly a remarkable device. Samsung did a dang good job at creating this phone. And this is from someone who loves iPhones. I do love iPhones. I do. But, and I also love iPhones. I also love, foldable cell phones. Microsoft, Samsung, Oppo, whoever, right? It makes me want to keep a a candy bar cell phone. And that's crazy to say. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Make sure to like and subscribe button if you are new. Peace out.